seated. Good evening, everyone. I'm Darren McNally, principal of Albany and McGregor High Schools. With me today is Assistant Principal Michelle Lausheim and Assistant Principal Ina Dallas. Also with us today is former Albany High School Principal Alexia Ritchie, who is currently the Executive Director of Student Services. I wanted to acknowledge Ms. Ritchie, who is retiring after 31 years of service to the Albany Unified School District. Ms. Ritchie, could you please stand? As principal of a school, graduation means something very important. After today, you, the students of the class of 2022, don't have to listen to me anymore. You don't even need to call me Mr. McNally, and actually most people out in the real world don't. No one is more proud of this change in our relationship than I am. As educators, our ultimate goal is that at some point in the future, you won't need us anymore. The better we have prepared you, the more quickly that moment will come, and the further you will exceed even our wildest dreams. At the same time, that means you are taking on the responsibility for yourself that was once held by me, or your teachers, or your parents and mentors. This means that you're open to an entirely new set of possibilities, as well as consequences. All of your education after this will be up to you. Much has been made of how anxiety-provoking the modern world can be for all of us. The other day, someone I trust very much said something that stuck with me about anxiety. They said that anxiety is not so much the overwhelming presence of fear, as much as the lack of confidence that we can handle what is coming in our lives. You, the class of 2022, have been given so many reasons to be confident in yourselves from your experiences in high school. You have had to cope with an incredible amount of disruption, not just with the closing of school, but also the reopening. And each time redefining your relationship to each other, school, and this community. As much as you've moved through high school has also moved through you. Each of you have also had your own personal challenges that you've had to make it through, with some lessons coming from the most unexpected of places and most unexpected of times. If you add up all of these unexpected lessons to what you have learned in the classroom, you are one of the best prepared classes of graduates this school has ever produced. I would wish you good luck, but I know you are able to make all of the luck you will ever need. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce student board member Ichtaca Lara for a land acknowledgement.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ichtaca, Lira. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm just gonna pull it. Please join me in acknowledging that we are here today in the city of Albany, which sits on the ancestral and unceded land of the Huichin, which is the territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, past and present. They are the successors of the sovereign Brona Band of Alameda County. As members of the Albany community, we have and continue to benefit from the use and occupation of this land, and it is crucial that we not only recognize the history of the land on which we stand, but also that we acknowledge those who have stewarded it for generations and continue to today, as the Muwekma Ohlone people are still alive and flourishing members of Albany and the broader Bay Area communities here and now. I additionally implore you all to research and take action in support of Indigenous land-based activism in your daily lives. Thank you.
Gotta find my speech. And readjust the mic.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Magnus Tangherlini. Some of you may know that I was your ASB president this past year. I'm extremely delighted to be here tonight. Congratulations, class of 2022. Welcome, friends, family, and cougars. Today I brought this Madeline. Let's call it our collective Madeline. Like many of us, I've eaten a lot of snacks during the last few years. In my family, we settled on Madeleines. And every time one of us ate one, my dad would grow wistful and launch into a long, boring recitation of his life. Proust was our constant companion. And so at the end of high school, it is time for us to reflect with our collective Madeline in this hour-long speech about a time that feels almost lost. Freshman year, we walked through the halls intimidated by upperclassmen, but ambitious in what we could accomplish. We joined different clubs, tried out for teams, desperately searched for our lockers, were exposed to Mr. Razban's trial by fire in math. And so began our journey along the smooth and utterly predictable paths of high school, even if some of those paths were blocked by turkeys. Sophomore year, things were looking up for us. We started getting a little more confident, started exploring our interests more deeply, started searching for what we wanted to become. We even took third place in homecoming. Go us! Then COVID struck and those paths got a tad unpredictable. We started saying unprecedented times so often that we began to wonder about the definition of unprecedented. What good is a Madeline if everything you remember is the same? But as sophomore year turned to junior year, and COVID set up shop, we also finally got a good sleep, started embracing the absurdity of it all, and started embracing ourselves. People picked up knitting, an instrument, sports, art, fly fishing, speed origami, a healthy TikTok addiction. What I picked up, though, was lying in bed, snacking on Madeleines and watching different chess openings for hours on end. These openings have great names. The Queen's Gambit, the Nordenholt Sprint, the Disappearing Chocolate Muffin, the Raccoon's Escape. We headed into senior year with the personality of a sophomore and the philosophy of a jaded mountain hermit. And so this year we struggled through first semester, learning how to socialize once again, make in-person friends, and how to wear clothes instead of pajamas. And now we finally made it to the end. High school was a testament to our priorities. Maybe that was chasing a grade, a certain college, a job, an activity. For some, it may have worked out in the end, while for others, it may have not gone the way we thought. I'm pretty sure the famous poet Yeats once said, "Dreams are pretty cool until you realize they have fangs." Given that, perhaps dreams should not be what define us. Right now, take a look at those sitting next to you. Maybe they're your best friend, or you've never spoken a word to them. No matter, you will see we are activists, musicians, gamers, artists, and friends of infinite creativity. I really hope that in this next chapter, we just embrace ourselves rather than always trying to catch the tail of the next great thing. I'd like to end with a small anecdote about raccoons. This is something I witnessed during COVID and have not forgotten since. Late one night, after a strenuous day of watching chess openings and munching on Madeleines, I was awoken by some really loud banging outside. I looked out my window and, across the yard, a gang of masked raccoons gazed back at me, startled at being caught in the act of scaling our fence. The two on top were reaching down with their front paws to a much bigger one, who stood on her hind legs reaching up to her eager mates, while a third was squished underneath, pushing from the bottom. They'd seen their opening, an escape. As I reflect on those raccoons, it strikes me that they're a lot like us, helping each other out, being creative, and eager to finally get the heck out of here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm the senior class president, Jamie Loizeaux. Thank you all for being here. Friends, peers, class of 2022. Believe it or not, we are, for the first time, all together. From this point on, we are forever connected. All of us, right here, right now. For the rest of our lives, we are joined by this beautiful moment. I don't think the story of adolescence can be told any other way. We came into freshman year worried about how many more push-ups we were going to have to do in PE. Our sophomore year, we started to get the hang of things and found our places in this school. Junior year, well, let's skip junior year. And now senior year. The stress of applying to college, the even greater stress of figuring out who you want to be in the world, and yet we're here. We made it. But we didn't just sit back and cruise our way through high school. We took matters into our own hands, and our dedication is quite evident. We routinely flourished in science Olympiad competitions, Model UN conferences, and choir and band festivals. Not to mention our league champion baseball team, our well-decorated wrestling team, and our legendary state champion cross-country team. And finally, our homecoming girls football team, because how could I leave you guys out? Throughout these 4 years, we have endured more than any of us could have imagined. Take, for example, when they took the juice boxes off the menu. Or, for instance, when they took the nacho bowls off the menu. Or worst of all, when they took the chocolate muffins off the menu. But we persevered. Those around us today share something special, a unique bond. For most of us have spent 13 years of our lives growing up alongside each other. We have watched each other grow, develop, and become the well-rounded individuals we are today. Looking around, many of us see the same faces as we did on our first day of kindergarten. We see the same faces that sat next to us on the first day of recorder lessons in 4th grade. The same faces that ran alongside us at Greek games in 6th grade. And the same faces that walk up the stairs with us at 8:36, neither of us carrying a tardy pass. That train was 2 minutes late. We are now at the end of this long journey, and I think it's fair to say that at this age, we know nothing about what comes after, yet we feel everything. We feel our heart, our fears, our hopes, our dreams, and that strange fact of life that not every road may lead back home anymore. We will never be together like this again, yet we will forever be brought back here. One shared memory to this place, this group, right now. Forever connected. And as the years fade, I'm sure we won't remember everything that was said here today. What's important is that we remember the moments, the stories, and the friends that we have shared those with. To all of you today, I hope these past years have lived up to your expectations, because thanks to you, they have well exceeded mine. And no matter where you find yourself in the coming decades, no matter what you accomplish, what name you make for yourself, no matter where you live, whether it is in this corner of the world or another, I'm sure your memories will inevitably bring you back to here, this small town of Albany, California. When you do think of those times, I hope that you think of this. Think of us here, this time, this place, this town. The memories that were made here, the stories that were lived, and the friends that we all once knew so well. And I hope you look back, now and always, with a feeling of connection. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. Good evening, family, friends, faculty, administration, graduates. My name is Zara Kazi, and I am the AHS 2022 Salutatorian. It's an honor to be speaking in front of you all today. We did it! We're actually graduating. For so long, graduation has felt like some kind of far away, unattainable dream that we'd eventually reach. And suddenly, eventually is right here, knocking on our door. In the past couple of years, the world has changed in so many unpredictable ways. We've experienced and witnessed a global pandemic, political uneasiness, climate change, multiple wars, discrimination on every level, and so much more. And the strength with which we've all lived through these times and still shown up to school every day, or at least enough to graduate, is simply incredible. Every single person participating in this ceremony today has persevered through a year and a half of online school. Every person has fought through one of the most unpredictable times in history, and every person has felt the pain of a COVID-19 test swab going up their nose. And that in itself deserves a round of applause. Getting to graduation was not a solo effort. It was the effort of all the pillars of support that surround me daily, guiding me throughout my whole life. My mom, who is the kindest woman I know and who will go to the end of the world for me. My dad, whose advice and dad jokes brighten every day. The coolest brother I could ever ask for. My compassionate friends and teachers. My incredible support system of aunts. I appreciate every one of you more than you know. So, family, friends, and faculty in the audience, congratulations! While you're basking in the pride of the fact that we're graduating, remember that we couldn't have done it without you. Graduates, Graduates, we're not perfect. We're not going to negotiate world peace today or fix climate change tomorrow. But the ways in which we've used such an unforeseeable time for the better are commendable. We've dared to dream even as the world around us was spinning out of control, and we've now emerged as graduates. As we go through this ceremony today and enter the next phase of our lives, I want to remind everyone here, including myself, to take the lessons that we've learned from these past few years with us. Whether you go on to discover another element, start a business, or save lives, the only way to fail is to forget what the past years have taught us. That working together, we have the power to pave the world for the better. In the words of Christopher Robin, because what would a graduation speech be without a Winnie the Pooh quote? You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. Thank you. And now, please welcome AHS 2022 Valedictorian Ali Chiang for a solo dance performance.
Loving can hurt. Loving can hurt sometimes, but it's the only thing that I know. When it gets hard, you know it can get hard sometimes. It is the only thing that makes us feel alive. We keep this love in a photograph. We made these memories for ourselves, where our eyes are never closing, hearts are never broken, and time's forever frozen still. So you can keep me inside the pocket of your ripped jeans, holding me closer till our eyes meet. You won't ever be alone. Wait for me to come home.
Next, I would like to introduce Albany Unified School District Superintendent, Dr. Frank Wells.
It's true. Today, it's all about you, class of 2022. Poetry in motion. I'm going to be brief because I'm just like you. I want to hear from the rest of the students. Albany High School class of 2022, you made it despite all the struggles and challenges, and yet you persevered. You showed and demonstrated much support and kindness towards each other during these most difficult times. For that, I'm asking all the families and friends in the audience to all stand and give the class of 2022 its much deserved and earned standing ovation. You, class of 2022. In closing, I told you I'll be brief. I'm going to leave you, class of 2022 with a quote that inspired me throughout the decades, written by Frederick Douglass. It states, "Without a struggle, there is no progress. Without a struggle, there is no progress." Thank you.
Our next speaker is the 2022 Speaker at Large. The Speaker at Large from each graduating class is chosen by vote from the class itself. And this year, the Speaker at Large is Ichtaca, Lira.
Hello, everyone. I'm just gonna go on my speech. All right. Oh, okay. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are joined together to look back on the places we've come from. And in my personal life, I have taken it upon myself to learn more about the indigenous culture I come from. My indigenous ancestry can be traced to the Mixtec people of Oaxaca, Mexico. And recently, I have begun to learn about the Oaxacan concept of comunalidad, an axis of thought which originated as an indigenous belief system involving the intersection of identity, responsibility, and community. A key element of this belief system is the notion that our identities are an amalgamation of our own cultures. Although I am still learning, to me, comunalidad means that I am never alone. It means that we are more than just ourselves, but those we share space with, our families, the place where we live, the lessons we learn. For all of us to some degree, the city of Albany has been the backdrop of many of these identity-defining moments in our lives. In close proximity to one another, we traverse through the canyons and valleys of these past 4 years. The big events that occur in our district ripple quickly from one school site to the next, and that allows for our community to feel connected in a variety of ways. For example, when a student sees the culmination of their effort result in something monumental, our community will be championing them and supporting them every step of the way. We take pride in the accomplishments of those around us, cherishing them as if they were our own, because it means a little extra when you've grown up with the person and are good neighbors with their family. In this aspect, a strong sense of comunalidad in Albany is alive and well. And I know that we will continue to celebrate and savor the successes of one another once our time at the high school has come to a close. And yet, I am a firm believer of the idea that our identity encompasses every side of where we come from. When I was in the 7th grade running to become student body president, a friend of mine confessed that they had overheard a group of people who said that they wouldn't vote for me because I was a quote-unquote lesbian B-word. This broke my heart and deeply confused me as someone who not only didn't identify as queer at the time, but who also believed that I had good relationships with several people in that group. That experience sent me in a negative spiral despite me winning the election. I'm very lucky to be surrounded by an accepting and understanding family that consoled me and guided me through that traumatic experience. But I know that other students in this district do not have that kind of resource despite experiencing that same discrimination. I'm sharing this kind of experience with you all for the students who cannot, for those who have been silenced or felt the need to stay silent, and because as part of the system of comunalidad, we must breathe in and take accountability for the whole of our community. It is our responsibility to learn from these experiences and ensure that those that cause more harm than good are not repeated. We are all of us together in one, and one's pain is ours, as well as one's joy. In holding and looking after one another in this way, I am reminded of the circumstances and strife brought upon us by the pandemic. These past 2 years have critically affected so many members of our community. Together we experienced not only a pandemic, but the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as a surge in hate crimes targeting the AAPI community. We witnessed our community rise to the occasion, hosting protests and forums for students to talk about their experiences with oppression in this district. As well as fundraising through the student-led initiative of Diversify Our Narrative. Go Diversify Our Narrative! Woo! through the student-led initiative of Diversify Our Narrative to provide classrooms with a more diverse curriculum. We went beyond our community for resources and were able to empower those within the district by doing so. Comunalidad includes community care, and it is my most sincere hope that we keep that momentum going as we close this chapter in our lives and prepare for whatever next step is in store for us. That we not only learn from past incidents, but look after those who were harmed as well, and do whatever we can in our power to ensure that these cycles of harm cease to continue. And to wherever our future leads us next, let's continue to expand our identities by seeking experiences in new places with unfamiliar crowds. I am ultimately very thankful to have had my identity shaped and supported by this district, and I look forward to continuing to cheer on and look after my peers as we transition through the upcoming highs and lows. Thank you.
Next will be the Albany High School Choir with the Irish Blessing.
May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall soft upon your fields, until we meet again, my friend, until we meet again. May God hold you in the palm of his hand. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall soft upon your fields,
Thank you, Albany Choir Chamber Singers. Before I introduce our next speaker, I would like to share that our Salutatorian and Valedictorian are chosen not only for their academic achievements, but also excellence in at least 2 of the 5 following categories: athletics, the arts, community service, extracurricular academic competitions, and for internships and other community or work-based learning experience. I am honored to introduce our Valedictorian.
I have always loved stories. Hearing stories, creating stories, telling stories. Growing up, I immersed myself in Disney fairy tales and Harry Potter fantasies. For example, I was 6 when I watched Toy Story 3. It was the first story that touched me so powerfully and deeply that I was moved to tears. I also grew up listening to the stories of my Taiwanese immigrant grandparents. I especially love my grandmother's story of how she learned Spanish from Mexican customers at her tiny food stand in Southern California. She still delights in repeating their praise. Estos tacos son mejores que los de mi esposa. You make tacos better than my wife. Our lives are woven together by stories. From the moment we stepped into Albany High as wide-eyed freshmen, calculating how to weigh PE, and being paired with questionable forum group members. Some of us revealed daily internal debates over whether to drop Honors Math 1-2, and laughed together about the moment of shock when we learned that our class color was the splendidly vibrant shade of tangerine orange. Today, I'd like to share a recent chapter in my story. Last spring, my doctor told me that I needed spine surgery. 2 metal plates would be drilled in my back to permanently hold 9 inches of my spine in place. Recovery would take 6 to 12 months. But the first post-surgery challenge was here at Albany High. My surgery took place 8 days into senior year, causing me to miss 4 weeks of school. When my teachers, friends, and classmates heard about my predicament, they all went out of their way to show care for me, helping me readjust to my new situation. A teacher I've had for 3 years, Mr. Becker, stepped up to be my home hospital instructor. He was so patient in those early weeks when I could barely sit at a desk for 10 minutes before needing to lie down again. His care, and everyone else's, meant so much to me. I learned that when our life stories encounter that unexpected plot twist, that's usually what teaches us resilience. We can then move forward with the love and support of the people around us. Speaking of love and support, my spine surgery story is part of a bigger story, one of gratitude. We have all been blessed by an incredible network of parents, teachers, mentors, and friends who have inspired us and impacted our stories. Through their kindness, wisdom, and investment in us, we have grown as critical thinkers and as human beings. Everyone here today, young or old, has a unique story. For those of us graduating, we have an exciting opportunity to write the next chapter of our lives, whether that involves spending the next year abroad, starting a new job, or heading straight to college, maybe on the East Coast or right in our backyard at Cal. I hope that my stories have sparked your own memories. Think of your own stories. The fun ones, the sad ones, some that you're proud to share, and some embarrassing tales that your friends will never let you live down. Other stories are more private. Decades may pass before they are told, though maybe our future audience, our next generation, will chuckle.
Perhaps they will gasp in shock at the kids we used to be and the choices we made, sometimes without thinking, as teenagers. They might even be proud of us for taking stands against injustice and hatred and violence, even when we were just kids. To my fellow graduates of the class of 2022, I challenge each of you to live in a way so that you will have worthy stories to tell about how you've positively impacted our world, just as you have made a difference in my life during our 4 years together. I'm really proud to share my story of being from Albany. Thank you to each of you for being such a special part of my story. I can't wait to see what our future chapters will hold. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce our final speaker, Miss Rhode. She is our faculty speaker and was chosen by the class of 2022.
Reminders, you know? All right. Good evening, and congratulations to the graduating class of 2022. I've had the pleasure of teaching many of you this year, or 4 long years ago. It's an honor to speak to you before you head off to what's next. I know that many of us are already well aware of the fact that here in the present, everything is happening all at once. The emotional whiplash often seems untenable. We go from playing Wordle when we're supposed to be productive to another mass shooting in the news. And then you braid leis for all your friends in the colors of their new schools. Meanwhile, the earth is still dying. You learn that dancing can just be jumping and laughing with your friends. You have to pinky swear your English teacher to turn in those missing assignments. And you honor that timeless phalangeal oath. You test positive for COVID on the weekend you've been looking forward to for months. Your dad meticulously, lovingly hennas your hands, and you whiz gleefully down the first floor hallway in rolly chairs. In the midst of all this, you're finally graduating high school. When grief, anger, and laughter, comedy and tragedy all exist together, sometimes in the same breath, the question I pose to you is this: how do we do this? How do we process it all? How do we live good lives in spite of it all? Those words, in spite of it all, are wrong. If we take the extremes, those words, in spite of it all, are wrong. If we take the extremes, they require us to ignore half of the truth instead of facing it all. And we often will ping pong between these two extremes. If we focus on just the negative parts, ever-present evils like gun violence, white supremacy, but also loneliness, disappointment, we become so overwhelmed with what's wrong, it's easy to become disheartened, blame others, and scroll mindlessly. The extreme opposite, idealistic optimism, chasing good feelings, is just as worrisome. To live with wild abandon, ignoring the reverberating consequences of your actions, that's entitlement and delusion. But let me re-ask that question. How do we do this? How do we process all of this contradiction? How do we live good lives, not in spite of it all, but in the middle of it all? We can face all this clashing juxtaposition all at once. Acknowledge that there are amazing things happening now that are worthy of our celebration and laughter. And we need to imagine and work towards something better, starting now. The secret is, when we think of responding in this way, the everything of it becomes less clashy. Enjoying and celebrating the present good feeds the vision of a better future. They start harmonizing with each other. Living a good life isn't ignoring something that doesn't match the vibe. It's opening arms wide to pull it in. It's opening arms wide to pull it in, include it, and indulge in everything that's going on. Life doesn't start the day after high school or when you're a quote unquote real adult. It's already started. We have to live this kind of life now. Don't wait. Don't wait to celebrate. Don't wait for the right time to say, I'm sorry, or I love you, or thank you. Send the message, dye your hair, go to Copenhagen or Panama or Maine. And also, don't wait to make the present closer to the future you want. It's coming faster than you think. Of course, we adults also need to do this work too. But each of you is responsible for the communities you're a part of, big and small, regardless of whether you feel like you belong or not. Each of you have changed Albany High just by being here, by making choices to avoid or to be in the middle of it. When we acknowledge that our presence changes a place, we can take responsibility for the kinds of actions we make, and we can make spaces that don't feel right at the moment feel more right in the future. I learned this from you. Many of you are living this way now. Some of you have changed curriculum to reflect the diversity in our world. Others have made inclusive music collectives, and still others have mentored young dancers or elementary students or younger athletes. These accomplishments are huge and will reverberate through our community for many years. But also, making this place better is done through micro actions too. Asking the questions that the whole class is wondering, complimenting someone new, covering for a group mate, pushing someone to be more thoughtful. These actions that anyone can do all point towards a kinder, more supportive community, the kind of future and present I want to be a part of. Many times already, at the senescent age of 18, you made this choice between indulging in the whole messy truth, seeing potential everywhere, and avoiding half of what's happening because it's all too much. In fact, every decision is this decision. You may not get to choose the current state of the world or change past circumstance, but enjoy the time you have, how you spend your days, the joy you feel or don't feel, the path to the future you're envisioning. It's all happening now. Believe that everything and everyone can be more understanding, more loving, and more beautiful. Let's make that world together. Thank you. Graduates, let's do this thing.
As principal, it is my pleasure to present the graduating class of 2022. I certify that they have met the graduation requirements established by the state of California and the Board of Education of the Albany Unified School District. Here to accept the graduating class of 2022 is Albany Unified School District Board President, Dr. Sara.
And the last thing between you and your diploma. I am so honored to be here on behalf of your whole Board of Education today after 2 years of crossing our fingers. Getting longer. None of us take for granted what it means to be here today to celebrate. And what a joy it has been this whole year to watch you emerge from the world of Zoom, listening to your music, watching your dance, your plays, your musicals, hearing your speeches, seeing your banners, your chalk art, watching you play in the gym, swimming, playing on the field, reading your petitions, calling onto the board meetings, hearing your pranks, your sense of humor. We have watched you become the near adults that you are today, provocative, creative, outspoken, funny, stylish. I mean, look at you all. It's wonderful. Our most basic responsibility as a school district is to get you to this day safely. Over the past 2 years, that has been a complicated mission, and the past week, that burden has weighed especially heavily on some of us. But when I look out at you, what I see, what I feel is hope. You remind me that we live in a world in which anything can happen, which means that there is unlimited potential for a better world within it. A world with gun violence and war also contains a world with people fighting for justice and peace. A world with plagues also contains people willing to line up every week and stick a Q-tip up their nose to keep each other safe. A world with fear and oppression is also a world where people are rising up to fight for justice and solidarity. We have seen you all making that better world day after day with your joy, your empathy, your sincerity, your power, your humor, your spirit, your creativity, and your style. We are so proud and excited for you, but most of all, I want to express our thanks, our gratitude for everything that you have given us in your time here. Take those gifts, go out and get in the way and make that world that you deserve to live in. And so, by the powers vested in me by the state of California and the Board of Education of the Albany Unified School District, I accept the class of 2022 and bestow the high school diploma to these graduates with all the rights and responsibilities inherent with such honor.